We're very happy today. We have Professor Sanjay Mishra from a physics research lab in Ahmedabad, India, to give us a presentation on his work on the electrostatic charging of under very special lining condition, namely at the crater rim. And then this is something very new, and he has been working very well. And he's one of the leading experts on this problem. So let's hear what Professor Sanjay Mishra is going to tell us.
Thank you, Professor Rit, for giving me this opportunity to talk over this forum and discuss our work and share our work. And thank you so much for bringing me up with this, aligned with such distinguished speakers. So what we are going to talk about is electrostatics of the moon in particular. We will briefly discuss the aspects associated with that. And when we talk about the electrostatics, it covers the entire physical processes associated with the charge accumulation. And this charge accumulation could be on dust particles or any object associated with the charged particle ambience. So that's how we are going to build it up, electrostatics on moon. So what we will try to answer in this conversation, we will try to answer the very fundamental questions associated with that. First thing is very important. How this electrostatics develop over moon. We'll try to understand that how this charge accumulation is taking place over there. Second thing, if it is happening, what sort of plasma ambience, what sort of atmosphere it is going to build up in the vicinity of the moon surface. And then we will try to again find out if it is happening, if any sort of plasma ambience is going to take place in the ambience and the near vicinity of the moon, how the dust particles, does it support the dynamics of the dust particles? If it supports the dynamics, the even fundamental question arises, is electrostatics has to do anything with the lifting of the particles at very first? And then we will try to answer if everything, all these things are happening and a dusty environment is created in the ambience in the vicinity of the moon surface, then is there any possibility of patterned structure to propagate? It is like the wave transport or energy transport through waves. So we'll try to answer all these questions, and what we will do with that, we will discuss briefly in terms of physics insight associated with these mechanisms. And what we'll try to do, we'll try to display some numerical results which has been obtained recently from us and our colleagues. So we'll start with that. So this is the situation from which moon undergoes. So if you realize, in its orbit, moon spent almost 1/4 of its time period in a magnetotail regime. In magnetotail regime is characterized by very high energy charged particles, electrons, protons, and maybe some heavier particles as well. And due to this very high energy particles, a very high energy flux associated with that, that can drastically affect the charge population in this particular range of time period. While in other 3/4 of its orbit, it is directly influenced by solar irradiation, which is connected with mainly with the solar wind. Solar wind may also get fluctuations because of different maybe variety of physical processes and a variety of say solar activities duration. So this is the typical plasma properties associated with the wind, associated with the magnetotail, which moon goes through in its orbit, which is tabulated here. And on the top of the right, actually, I don't know if I have a pointer here. Yeah. So this is basically the typical solar radiation spectrum, which is reaching to the moon surface, front surface, shining surface, sunlit surface. So this is what the typical radiation is reaching. So this is all about what moon is going through, by virtue of which a plasma atmosphere could be created. Now, what is more important to understand here, what exactly this radiation is going to do with moon. as long as if we understand these particles are very exotic, very violent. And what it's going to do, it is going to interact with the surface, interact with the particles associated with the surface, maybe producing these sort of popular electrons and ions, heavy ions associated with that. And that might be giving rise to various physical processes, which in order produces different kind of plasma atmosphere in the vicinity. Now the question before that, generally it is a notion that the sunlit surface, the dynamics over the sunlit surface is primarily driven by the photon dynamics, while the rear part, which is not illuminated, or illuminated by light, is actually more or less the dynamics in that part is driven by the hydrodynamics systems, or hydrodynamics of the plasma. Generally, it is a conceived notion. Now, what we need to understand, what we need to really imagine, that is it really, despite all this violent and exotic particles interaction, electrostatics has anything? Does this electrostatics really matters for atmosphere associated with moon? So the answer is typically yes. There are a variety of such examples are available which suggest that electrostatics are the charge accumulation or the charge population folds in the vicinity of the plasma. I'm just taking a couple of examples. So just considering the dark region where the sunlight is not reaching, there is a possibility of very high energy electrons which is reaching to those surfaces and might lead to very high potential development in those regions. And such a high potential, maybe of the kV range, could be really hazardous to the electronic circuits associated with either whatever the probe is there or maybe any human angle over there. So it could be disastrous. So that has to be taken care of, and this is well understood that this kind of mechanism holds over there. On the other hand, this kind of potential development may be responsible for the resurfacing in the dark areas. How it would be happening? There is a phenomenon called the Coulomb explosion, in which what happens, generally the particles of the small size gain much larger potential so that it's overcome all the bondings, and that explodes. Generally, it is in laboratories or in medical sciences, plasma medicine actually. This is used to do through the source of plasma, and it gets charged and its explosion is taken place for the therapy purpose. But the same mechanism may hold over there, and after explosion, it resurfaces. So that is another aspect which could be a signature of the electrostatics is taking place over there. Means some local phenomenon associated with the electrostatics taking place over there. What in that course, and the very significant example, which is the right hand side, the very right, if you see, this is the picture, actually a sketch has been drawn by Apollo 17 astronauts, where they found the population, the dust population, to perform various phenomena, various sort of activities. And those activities were basically they distinguish in three aspects. One is the simple lunar horizon glow. And other was they found that the fountain kind of structures, the dust is floating like a fountain kind of behavior. And the other one is the streamers. A chunk of particles are actually going away from the surface, and its range up to the kilometers range. Similar in case of fountains, they found it is hundreds of meters. So this is something which was only argued to be explained by the electrostatic nature associated with the moon surface. So that's how the electrostatics is really important in order to understand that which sort of atmosphere, which sort of ambience, plasma ambience in particular, or which sort of dynamical mechanism associated with the charge associated with the fields are in the vicinity of the moon surface could be really acting on. So that's how so in order to have a notion that how this electrostatics is really developing on moon, we we should start with a very simple physical picture. Just imagine what we just noted, that moon is actually floating object, and it is floating under influence of entire solar irradiation, including the photon radiation as well as the plasma particles, which is connected with the solar wind, with the magnetotail associated with Earth. So literally imagine a picture, moon is as a probe, as a ball, which is floating in a bathtub of photon and plasma particles. So this very simple picture clarifies many things. What is going to happen with this ball? This is spherical ball, I should say, spherical body. All the particles are going to interact with this. All particles are going to fall. Sunlight may be considered to be directly parallel in the unidirectional in nature, while plasma could be understood to be like a collective behavior. So, and a smaller d by length in comparison to the scale length of the moon, that could be considered to be homogeneous. So that kind of picture could be created for this. Simplified picture could be created for moon as a spherical body in a plasma environment. Now, what these encounters would be doing, how does it lead to acquire the charge? So there are some physical processes which would be taking place over there. One physical process, that electrons are ions associated with the plasma, associated with the beam of the solar wind, our ambient plasma environment, is going to hit the surface. The surface, either of moon or the particle, is going to stick with that. The particle's material or the surface material has a finite probability to attach the particles with it. What in this course is going to happen? The particle will deposit that charge on the surface. This is basically given by electron and ion collection, and generally it is given by analytically it is treated as the orbital motion limited approach, and this is a very famous formulation which could be extracted from the literature. Another mechanism that can hold is the photoemission, which is very much prominent for the sunlit surface, where the solar radiation is directly hitting the surface. Now, the high energy UV and XUV photons are actually going to knock down the electrons from the surface through the photoelectric effect. When it is overcoming the barrier height, the electrons may come out. And this mechanism is very prominent for the lunar surface. Other mechanism which prominently may hold in the dark areas in particular is the secondary electron emission. The secondary electron emission might take place because when any high energy particle, high energy electron or ion associated with the solar wind or maybe with the magnetotail is going to hit the surface, going to penetrate and dispatch its energy to neighboring the encountering atoms associated with that, or particles associated with that particular lattice. And that course, the electrons may come out after overcoming the barrier again, and that could lead to again electron emission from the surface. So these three mechanisms are more prominent in the vicinity of moon, which we are going to talk about. And all these mechanisms are the significant function which is connected with the plasma which is going to hit, connected with the radiation parameters, solar radiation parameters, I mean. And shape and size, of course, due to the moon has a very large curvature for if you are just concentrating on very limited area, you can consider it to be the flat surface. And the material composition, which is going to connect the features, the characteristic through the work function and etc. associated with other physical properties of the material for which these mechanisms are going to take place. So these are that's just the mechanism, that's the processes we define. Now, how these processes are responsible to generate the bulk of the charges. So we must understood one thing, that these processes are not the single event. This is going to happen in bulk. These processes are though random, it's very much continuously taking place over the surface of the moon. So in that course, suppose either moon or any particle is knocked by a photon, it is going to deliver an electron, and hence the particle or the surface is going to enrich by one electronic charge positive. At the same time, if ions are going to be collected, it's going to give rise a positive charge on the surface. Again, if that an electron is going to collect on the surface, it is going to give a negative charge on the surface. So cumulatively, it is going to make a random charge deposition on the surface by some means, by any of these three mechanisms. What happens, how it tried to develop? So when a dominant flux is actually encountering with the surface, those are trying to actually generate the electrons. Suppose for the sunlit surface, the photo emission is going to dominate. Photo emission flux is going to dominate over there. So what happens? The electron flux is coming out from the surface. In that case, what is happening? The surface is going to be positively charged. And what this positive charge is going to do? This positive charge is going to resist the electron emission. At certain point of time, what will happen? The electrons, this positive charge will grow up at that level when these electrons coming out will stop doing so. And since all the three mechanisms work in the similar picture cumulatively, that leads to a situation when all these fluxes get balanced. And in that course, it is actually lead to the steady state potential. So this is how it is going to happen. Initially, the dominant flux will decide the charge. And after some time, temporarily, with its temporal behavior, it is going to take a steady state value by the dynamical equilibrium between all the charge fluxes. In the steady state, the net flux, which is reaching to the surface, would be zero. That will define the steady state potential of the surface, either with the charge, either with the dust particle or with the moon surface. So this is how a charge buildup, a electrostatic environment is going to build up on the surface. Okay, now what happens if we apply this concept of charge buildup on the moon, sunlit moon, say? So as you see here, that the moon will, one thing is sure, that moon is going to acquire a potential. On sunlit location where the photo emission dominate over the collection processes of the electrons and ions associated with the wind plasma, is actually going to give rise to this moon surface. That's a finite positive potential. Finite positive potential of the few volts. And what it suggests, it depends on plasma parameters by which it is working. If the plasma density associated with that is increasing, the potential is going to drop. Larger emission flux from the surface. So the picture essentially says, this figure essentially says that in the sunlit location under normal conditions, the surface is going to acquire a finite positive potential of the few volts. Of course, the solar activities might affect the surface potential up to some extent. Now, if this surface potential is going to develop, as I said, this is primary reason is that the photoelectric emission, emission flux has dominant contribution. Now, if this, just imagine, if these electrons are coming out, then these electrons will have a distribution in the vicinity, coming with a finite distribution, because inside lattice itself, it possesses a distribution. And depending on the energy which is photon is delivering them and barrier height, again, it will distribute it. When it is coming out, it will be distributed like a, it will also possess a distribution. Common consensus was that it should be Maxwellian as usual, what we anticipate. But what we realized in our recent work, that it is significantly departing from the Maxwellian. Even it's characterized by a very much non-Maxwellian nature. And not only this, what we realized that the photoelectric, due to this photoelectrons, which is connected with this in the vicinity of moon, is actually very much depend on the charging of the surface or the electrostatics development of the surface. So you can see this right-hand figure that as the potential, this is actually the transient evolution of the photoelectron distribution. Initially, it was when the surface was uncharged, means where t equal to 0, when the time it starts to evolve, the distribution was like this. And at the end, when it reaches to the steady state potential, the distribution is significantly changed, even from the very fundamental, very at t equal to 0. Even at t equal to 0, it is not the Maxwellian. So it's significantly altered by the electrostatics. So what the feature, remarkable feature here, that the distribution is a significant function of the charge. You can't let it go as a normal convention. Okay, there must be some distribution. Another point to understand it here, that the entire, you can see that this range of the photoelectrons energy, which is getting released. Now imagine if a surface have a finite potential and your electrons, the particles which are coming out has the different energies. What they will try to do? They will try to adjust themselves under influence of gravity and the electrostatic repulsion or electrostatic attraction. So this electrostatic attraction leads to a distribution of these electrons over the surface. And this distribution will actually lead to a sheath formation, which is very common in the laboratories, which is sheath formation we used to say in laboratory plasmas. There's a very much similar feature will hold on the moon surface itself. So this photoelectrons which is getting released from the surface is going to give rise to a sheath formation, in which the electron density will be largest here. The low energy electrons connected with this will remains here. High energy electrons will go up, and at a certain point of time, it will again go to the minimal value. So this going to give rise a sheath formation, photoelectron sheath over the sunlit locations, and this is what this is what going to form a photoelectron cloud in the vicinity. And you see, this picture shows that how the potential screening is going to take place, or how the altitude potential of the sheath is going to vary altitudinally. And it is realized that the sheath field or sheath potential are significant up to very few meters within the over the lunar altitude, maybe 10 meters, up to the 10 meters, it will be more significant. Second thing, it is realized the electric field strength, which is the largest in the vicinity of the surface, tens of volts per meter. This is very important quantity, which will come to realize when we will talk about the detachment from the surface. But anyway, so this is a density profile, how the density varies within the sheath, and it is well connected with the observation which is given by the Wondrock and Stern reported. So the overall, what we say here, the photoelectron sheath will be higher along the around the terminator due to the smaller device shielding, while around the equator, or say subsolar point, it will be smaller. So anyway, so the whole idea is about that sheath is going to form where the density may varies with respect to altitude of the over the moon surface. Now, okay, just one remark here. As I said that during 1/4 of its orbit, it is going to spend in a magnetotail, which is characterized by very high energy particles. In those cases, there is a possibility even the sunlit surface could have drastically negative potential due to very high energy population density, population flux available with the collection of the electrons over the surface in those regions. So it may reach to very high energy potential. So there may be a disparity between the two adjacent surfaces, which might lead to a strong potential difference between the two, and that could lead to the plasma transport as well as the charged particle transport over there. But we will not go to detail into this. This is just for remark. We will come back again to the sheath. Now, what we realized here, in the vicinity, there is a sheath of photoelectrons. Now, if it has a sheath of photoelectrons, it is characterized by a field, a positive field. It means, can it really give rise to particles to a level? Okay, so can it sustain a particle? Yes, it can sustain if it has a finite positive charge. The positive charge should balance Coulomb field, Coulomb interaction should balance the gravity. This is the very preliminary static equilibrium that can hold. And we try to find out what should be the really structure on those for those conditions when the static equilibrium is taking place. Means a particle of finite size having a finite charge, which is calculated, of course, that what sort of charge it will happen, what it will be acquiring in the sheath region by including all sort of dynamics associated with that. But what we realize, the dust particle is very much acquire 2 to 4 volt of potential over there. And in that course, what we realized in the static equilibrium can support actually some nanometer size particles levitate up to few meters. Tens of nanometers could levitate up to few meters. And the smaller size particles is more probable at larger altitude near the terminator region, while at subsolar point, the larger particles will be levitated up to few meters, or say at the larger extent. So this is what it is suggesting, that yes, if we consider the static equilibrium, the levitation is possible. The levitation is very static condition in which we are assuming that suddenly it comes from somewhere or in a very large time scale. But what is reality? Reality is not this. Every particle which is going to detach from the surface is actually might be having an initial speed. An initial speed means it will detach from a particle with a finite speed. That finite speed may be in any direction. So it is going to, the dynamics of that charged particle is going to deal with the competitive effects of the sheath and gravity, sheath field and gravity. So the Coulombic interaction, which is leading the particle as an acceleration force, and while the gravity which is pulling back. So that is going to give you a projectile kind of motion over there. Now, what we realized by including all these sophisticated calculations, sophisticated mechanisms into the analysis, we realized the nano-sized particles, the tens of nanometer size particles, or the hundreds of nanometer particles, can actually give rise to a lift up to kilometers range. Not only this, what we realized, if a particle is detaching with a velocity less than a critical velocity, this could lead to a hopping kind of behavior. Means the particle can actually lift once and then it can hop to the surface, unless until it is going to lose its all energy because of collisions or because of any other effect, damping effect associated with the medium. So this is a very interesting point, that a particle transport can take place because of this kind of behavior as well, because of this sheath field or electrostatics associated with the plasma ambience in the vicinity of the sunlit lunar surface. So as far as, so we understand that how this dynamics might be taking place because of sheath field. Now, let's go to the even fundamental question, that how this dust is actually lifting at very first from the surface itself. Because if we realize in laboratory that, that there must be something is happening. People used to realize that, okay, it is more like the random bombardment is going on regularly on moon. That's why that this dust might be lifting due to the momentum transfer. But what it was argued by in literature, that this might not be that much sufficient to really address the amount of dust actually which is observed or which could be actually obtained in the experiments. So there must be something else. So we will try to really address the question, can electrostatic might be doing something into this? So first we try to address the problem. Why we really think this is really a very tricky question? Because you imagine, I just said that the maximum sheath field, average sheath field, it is going to be 10 volts per meter. And what it is going to do with that, it is going to produce only one electron, possibility of one electron per 1000 micron square. Means one electron charge will be deposited in a 1000 of micron square area. While just assume that you have to overcome gravity, leave the sticking now at the moment. So for a 100 nanometer particle, you need at least the 3 auto newtons. So 2 electrons you need at 100 of nanometer particle in order to lift it under influence of this field. So this is again a paradoxical condition, that why it is happening so. So from here we are reaching to a conclusion, okay, this might not be the case that electrostatic would be really playing a role. And because you need at least 3 orders of magnitude higher field intensity or charge over the surface in order to produce this kind of detachment just from the gravity. Even if you include the cohesive nature, I mean the sticking, the fine particles which is sticking, more sticky in comparison to the larger particles on the surface, actually it really increased the complexity, because in those courses for the 100 nanometers of particles, you need at least the piconewton force, almost 6 order of magnitude higher force you need to detach the particle. So it makes really impossible to think that how these fields would be generating. But before we really conceive this idea, this is not possible, we should look into this recent experiment done by the Colorado group. What they did, they shoot they mimic the lunar ambience, surface ambience into that, and they shoot it surface full of dust particles by UV source and the solar wind, or say you mean some beam electrons. And what they realized, the hopping, you can realize this is the hopping is going to happen. And this is what happening with the UV radiation. And imagine, these are just purely electrostatic in nature. No other influence is taking no other influence is taking account here. So it is purely electrostatics in nature. Something is happening which we are not able to really conceive. So what do we propose in that context? Okay, so what we propose in that context, okay, let's understand it like that. This is something called microscopic fluctuations. The microscopic fluctuation, when I say this fluctuation is what? The fluctuation is actually connected with any natural mechanism is happening in the universe. So if there is a particle flux, the photo emission or the particle collection over the surface is going to have a randomization into it in its distribution. Because of distribution, the randomization is coming. And that randomization would lead to this kind of behavior. For example, suppose in a photoelectron is released from that particular surface of the 1 micron area square. What suddenly happens? From the average charge density at that particular location, the charge has been shifted up to larger by 3 orders of magnitude or 4 orders of magnitude immediately. And that is really a classical problem, because it's in a micron size area, this is very rare chances that unless this charge will be maintained till some other particle which is going to diminish this charge will take place here. And this mechanism of photo emission and collection is so randomized that this kind of spots can be preserved for longer period of time. Longer period of time, I mean to say, in the time scale of the charging process. So it could sustain up to few seconds as well. That depends on the spot size. Why spot size is important? Just imagine with another analogy. Put all the all the black and white balls of the centimeter size and millimeter size, whatever you can visualize from the naked eye. Put them into the bucket, say number is millions or thousands, whatever you want, just throw it out in the room or wherever you want. And after the rearrangement of these balls, just see that what you will realize. You will see the chunks of white and black balls separately. There are some locations where the white balls will be dominating in number. There will be some black. There are some regions where the black balls will be dominating in the number. This is the spot formation. The similar spot formation would be taking place in the vicinity of moon. And smaller that spot size is larger the possibility of fluctuating charge will sustain for longer. This was done very first at the intuitive level by using some physical basis associated with the random walk process. And don't go to this expressions, but why it is said to be realized that this is the tau for which this kind of spot size could sustain for how long. So smaller the size of the spot will sustain for longer. For example, the tens of nanometer can sustain for few minutes, few tens of minutes. The hundreds of microns could sustain for say a few seconds, and then few minutes. And for micron size, spot size is going to sustain for very few seconds. This is because if you are increasing the area, you are actually increasing the probability that any opposite charge could accumulate or any opposite charge could actually produce over that surface. That is the basic and very notive very Now this spot size could be anywhere, even on the dust particle, even on the surface. So whenever any particle is achieving this kind of spot, suddenly it will acquire a potential of very high, and the nearby interaction, Coulombic interaction, might lift the particle. This was at very much at conceptual basis. And what we did, we include the truly Markovian process of random walk in order to address this problem. And through simulation, we got this very much handy supporting this idea. And we see that for the submicron size particles are actually on the sun spot size, submicron size spot actually might be producing the electric field which is really required to lift the particle. So we conclude with this, that the microscopic fluctuation could be responsible to detach the particles at very first from the surface, along with other possible mechanisms. So we so far understood that what the field is doing, what the plasma is producing over there, what the dust particles are actually involved into this. So we have almost a composite system of dust and electrons. So essentially, we need to think that is really going to produce some wave-like properties, some oscillations associated with that. So what I'm going to just, I think I have already taken 35 minutes, so I will conclude in 5 minutes by just covering this aspect. So we have dust and plasma system, the two-component plasma system over there. And what we realized, this two-component plasma, this is the typical example if we really want to understand what the dust acoustic perturbation look like. So this is just the laboratory experiment which is done in 95 by producing the first picture of dust waves associated with plasma. But this is just for a notion. In case of sunlit pool, we have two-component plasma. That is, one is the sheath associated with the photoelectrodes. Other is the dust particle is scattered into that. And we have this very well-defined plasma system. And what this plasma system could produce, what we realized, that could lead to the possibility of dust acoustic perturbation into that. Now, what does this dust acoustic perturbation will do? Dust acoustic perturbations, what we realized, that dust acoustic perturbation is through the linear theory, we realized that this might produce a very long wavelength acoustic wave propagating through this channel. Very long wavelength means it's of almost of meter scale and of the frequency nearly 1 Hertz. On the other hand, the nonlinear analysis is suggesting that this might also induce the soliton propagation into that. The soliton structure, compressive and refractive as well. So what kind of feature? Just visualize it. Just visualize it. Some sort of waves which is producing like this compressive and refractive solitons. It is propagating through the medium. And if we induce that the charge is fluctuating on the particles itself, then this soliton propagation is damped. This may propagate up to some distance. And this damping process is coming from the very phenomenal concept of charge distribution, or say charge fluctuation over particles due to this random nature of the phenomena and mechanisms associated. Not only this, the exotic nonlinear analysis also suggests there is also a possibility of shocks associated with this kind of plasma system, dust acoustic shocks it can generate. And the nature of the shocks, maybe it may produce up to a very large scale, and then it may be oscillatory in nature, and it may be directly a monotonic shock kind of behavior. So it means that the shock will propagate with the reduced amplitude, or it may oscillate like this, means your potential associated with that, potential of the plasma associated with that might be rarefied, compressing as it propagates through the medium. What it does actually, since this potential structure can propagate through a medium, it might energize the local plasma transport. It might affect the local plasma to travel along with this potential. And that might be very much responsible, the transport of the particles, fine particles, charged particles, as well as the plasma species associated with that particular regime from one location to other location. So that's what we realize from this shock waves generation over there, or say nonlinear excitation modes. So this work, we are continued with this kind of work, and we are going to further elaborate it, and we will try to, the one thing is very important, how we can actually detect this kind of waves. So there is a possibility that if you can put a camera, which is the normal procedure, how we visualize the dust waves in laboratory, similar approach could be adopted. The other was the Langmuir probe. You can actually find out the perturbation in the local plasma density because of this. So these are some detection techniques of these kind of waves. So I think I have already taken some time, so I will just finish up here. So I acknowledge my colleagues who has been involved in this work, who has contributed in this work, what I have presented. And in case of any question, any queries in later phase, after this discussion, you may please feel free to connect on my email. And thank you all for your kind attention.
Yeah, Professor Mishra, thank you so much for for this very interesting talk. And I want to ask whether anyone in the audience have some questions for Professor Mishra first. You mentioned that this is a very important experiment by Wen et al. on the how to say that.
This is electrostatic lifting, electrostatic lofting. Yeah.
And you think that that's basically is a kind of random walk process, right?
Yes.
Fluctuation. I think that's a reasonable assumption, a picture. On the other hand, I remember that what the authors of that paper, they want to say is that another interpretation is that perhaps the photons or the electron got trapped inside the cavity, and how
that is their interpretation. True. They used to say that electron will be trapped in that particular area, but even if we assume that electron is trapped, it is not sufficient to produce that kind of field. Probably they have missed this point. But anyway, what I mean to say, they are also relying on the randomness nature associated with that floating charge, which is trapped into the medium. That's what the main aspect, I guess. Yeah.
But then I would say that the randomness would be very extreme, right? You're talking about 6 order magnitude difference.
Sorry. Yeah.
I mean the probabilities should be small. Of course, there are so many dust, on the lunar surface. Now, another question is that this kind of charging effect would be most dominant on the sunny side.
Yes.
Near the lunar
because
side.
Of photons. Yes. Yes.
And how about the night side and also on the limb side?
Yeah, night side. Actually, I was planned to do it today, but probably we have some time constraint. But yes, in night side, actually, what we should realize, in night side, actually, the particles which are actually transferring from the day side, that is one source of charging. Another source of charging is the very high plasma associated with magnetotail, if it is coming through the night side. So these two are basic charge species which leads to the charging in the night side. Generally, what happened, just imagine, this is a disk associated with a sunlit surface, and the plasma is actually crossing through this. Now, what this plasma is going to do, plasma is going to bend in these locations. And so due to this ambipolar filtering, very high energy electrons would be reaching to this rear surface. And that high energy electrons might be leading to the charge, due to the charge collection over these surfaces. So in night side, one should anticipate very high negative potential at the very rear surface. Again, but some literature just by Chandran has reported that very high energy neutral particles over there. It means the high energy protons availability over there in those regions. So those high energy protons may also contribute to these charging mechanisms. And in that course, in very much at the equator region, I mean, just behind this disk at 180 degrees, there may be a very rare possibility that these electrons, which is bending through this solar wind plasma, which is natural flow, which is a natural bending occurring due to this interaction, might be because electron has to filter to these altitudes, this lower latitudes. So in that course, probably the very high energy electrons would be reaching there, and the protons, which is very high energy protons associated with this plasma environment, might be hitting the surface. Their flux may be such a way that these surfaces might have some positive potential as well nearby equator region. So that is another possibility. We are working on that. But night side at the primitive notion, it suggests that it might have negative potential at very high level because of high energy particles which are able to penetrate to those surfaces. Another aspect would be the polar craters, where these mechanisms are really significant.
Well, polar crater, also the craters near the rim, right? I mean,
yes. Actually, if you give me just a couple of minutes, I want to share one slide.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you have plenty of time.
Because I missed that actually part, but if you are intriguing me to share that slide, actually, just a moment. So this is what the picture when we go to the polar craters. The similar picture I was actually mentioning. This is what. Just a moment. So this is what the solar wind actually passing through this crater rim. Suppose it is a polar crater rim, and it is passing through that. Now, what is happening? This bending, due to the randomization in the thermal energy, it is the electrons will, with the higher mobility, it will move faster towards the rear part, and that is followed by ions that will give you the ambipolar effect, and the high energy electrons will be captured by very rear part. So there will be a finite region where that will be completely ion-free region. No ion will be able to reach to this particular region in nearby polar craters. I mean, just the rear part of the polar craters, just rear part of the this crater rim. And after that, when ion will catch up the electrons, then again it's a natural process. So the charging will take place due to the current balance between the ion flux and electron flux at the rest of the surface. But this portion is really interesting, where we have just the electrons, no ions, no any species which can actually counterbalance the current in order to get a steady state situation. And what in this course will be happening, just intuitive, what in this course will be happening, the electrons are actually going to dump down every time. So the charge is going to build up in this area. Now, what it looks like, what it should happen physically, it should create a discharge. By some means, at some point of time, it will gain such a potential when it should overcome to a breakdown situation. But it is not happening. It is not happening. It simply means there's something else is happening, which is leading to balance this excess amount of current. Okay, so that's what we realized. This is the potential problem. And we realized this balance could be explained by assuming that the fine particles which are overlying the surface in this particular rear part, would be acting as a field emission source of the field emitted electrons. And that field emitted electrons actually is encountering, actually the balancing, the neutralizing the excess amount of current which is falling on the surface. So in this reason, we realized this kind of reason will actually lead to around hundreds of volts potential nearby surface. And the similar, very much similar potential we will get when we will reach to the rest of the part of the crater region. So this is what we realized so far. We were working on that aspect. Well, this idea could be detected by various means. The potential here, which is sunlit location, and here, which is really a electron dominated area, the difference between the two is very high, approximately 100 of volts. So one must be careful. Another thing which this idea actually pops up more interestingly, that normally this, you need not the particles to exist here. There are amorphous ice associated with this area is the possibility. Any fine structure which is at the micron or submicron scale might be acting as a source of those neutralizing current. Another way around, just think about it. If you want to send some probe, some object over there, or say human over there, what you need to do, you just make a fabric by macro structuring it. Just macro structure it. Those macro structures, those spherical macro structure might be acting like a field emission source, and that would lead to the dissipation of excessive charge development over there. So these are the practical implications of this idea that could really be applicable if someone wants to apply it.
Well, do you want to apply it? I mean, you have the mission.
I don't have the mission, but this is just a physical idea. This is just a physics idea which should be working. And it should work if you want to really roam through that area, even with a probe or a rover. You must ensure one thing, that very large potential should not be developed in those regions. Anything we send it. So you must, for example, if you remember, when the astronauts were walking, rover charging actually, then the electrostatic discharge were taking place with the dust and across their shoes. So there was some sort of things were happening. So if it is at a potential very high level, then it could be really deleterious to the instruments which you are sending. We must, we must realize that. So these are the processes, physical processes, which can help in order to produce such a technology, such a fabric to avoid those kind of excess charge deposition.
Okay, very good. So if any other questions from the listener? I think that it's almost time. If not, and we will conclude the session. And we thank Professor Mishra again. And he promised that he will come back now to listen to the talk by Dr. Joshua Cowell and asking 10 questions, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the questions, but I would love to listen him because the subject is of our interest. We are also looking to have some methodology, develop some model in order to really detect the subsurfaces. Particularly, we are interested in cavities, if we really can get it by some radar reflections. Can we really detect it? So in that context, we are really interested in that conversation. So I will be very happy, and a couple of my colleagues will be also joining that talk.